What's your "'tis but a scratch" moment? I got hit by a car my freshman year of high school. I went flying, lost consciousness for a split second when I hit the ground. Thank God for helmet. When I came to, people were all around me asking if I was okay and what happened, etc. I was like, oh yay, I'm good. I'm gonna just get back on my bike and go now. But didn't really move. Then people started asking me to call an ambulance and my mom, etc. I was like, why? I'm good. I even told my mom on the phone I was still gonna bike home. But as I was saying that, the people around me had started to move one of my legs and I watched as my foot proceeded to not move. I had broken both bones in my leg completely in half and part of ankle. Just pure adrenaline and shock. I also vividly remember thinking how this is what it feels like to get hit by a car. Also the leg wasn't setting right, probably from movement, and the doctor decided to put me on laughing gas as he tried to crack my bones back into place. Was in a stupor laughing as I felt my bones grind. I'm a bartender in a nightclub. One night while working I was pouring a drink while I reached back with my other hand to open a fridge. And that's when I heard a pop and got a huge pain in my back/shoulder area. The pain was pretty bad, but I was sure it was a pulled muscle and there wouldn't be much point in seeing a doctor other than getting meds. So I waited. Fought through the pain, which was so bad at times it was making it hard to breathe. That was a Friday. I called off Saturday and had Sunday, Monday, Tuesday off before I went back to work Wednesday. Once I biked into work. In all I waited 9 days total before finally deciding to go to the ER. I had a collapsed lung called a spontaneous pneumothorax. 20 minutes after getting to the ER I was put into emergency surgery. I was essentially breathing with only one lung, and any major impact to my chest would have collapsed the other and probably killed me. A couple weeks ago, I stepped on an anthill and got a bunch of ant bites on my ankles. 3 to 4 days later, the itching was unbearable. I wasn't sleeping. My legs were swollen, and no amount of Benadryl or antihistamine cream was helping the itching. I finally went to a clinic to get a shot or whatever, because I clearly having some sort of allergic reaction. It was a staph infection that had spread from my ankles up to my knees. I would have died if this 1920 instead of 2020. I was on antibiotics for 10 days. And now several weeks later, the dead skin from the infection is still flaking off. TL. Doctor scratched ant bites with unclean hands and gave myself a staph infection. Ignored it for several days because it was just some bug bites. My little sister fell down about 15 steps at our grandma's house when she was a toddler. She got up, giggled and went to go eat some snacks. This other time, still a toddler, she was supposed to be napping. We were in the living room and heard a huge thud. We ran to the room thinking she'd fell out of the bed. Nope. She somehow managed to pull the TV down. This was the early 2000s. TVs were heavy AF and it fell on top of her. She was laying there in snow angel position and my mom freaked out. When we got the TV off her, she got up and asked for ice. Not to soothe pain but to eat. My little sister was, and still is, a champ. I got hit by a car while riding my bicycle. Flew through the air. Bounced off his windshield, breaking his windshield, my helmet and 2 vertebrae. Then thrown to the ground where my kneecap shattered and bone was sticking out of the skin. And as I lay there in shock, unaware of how badly I was injured, I thought I might be able to get back on my bike and ride home. I broke my neck on a huge Shura wave and didn't want to leave the beach. So I continued swimming and playing volleyball until my friends noticed my neck was swelling up bigger than my head. Back in my baseball days, when I was pitching, I completely lost a pitch and it beamed a guy in the jaw. He throws his bat down, glares at me with the glariest of glares ever glared, spits out blood, then calmly runs to first base as though nothing happened. It was terrifyingly badass. I was mountain biking and fell off. I fell down part of the mountain and into a road where I almost got hit by a car. I got up quickly, thanked the driver for not killing me, and then got back on the bike. I knew the road would meet up with the trail I was on, so I could meet up with my group, who hasn't seen me fall. When I got to them, one of them looked at me and was like, "What happened?" I got off the bike, walked over whilst we waited for the others to catch up and Just said I fell off. He then looked down at me and was like, what the hell happened? I'm like, it's nothing. A few cuts and scratches on my hands and arms. My leg was bleeding from earlier and that was it. Then I looked down and realized I had scratched off half the skin on my leg from falling on the road. Basically a bad case of road burn. From all the adrenaline I hadn't even felt it. They called someone to come and get me from the mountains. I wasn't allowed to continue, and one of the other riders saw my leg and decided they wanted to stop too. I just went to a pharmacy, grabbed some wipes and bandages, then we got a drink whilst we waited for everyone else to finish. Fell off my bike and dislocated my shoulder, popped it back in and kept on going. Trapped a nerve, but it's okay 90% of the time now. Another time I fell in some glass, pulled out most of it from my hands, and pulled out a piece 9 days after the wound had fully healed. I felt a weird pressure when I'd hold things, so I had to feel around and cut the glass out. I broke my arm at the skating rink and skated for an hour before I even left. Then, after I left there, I went to a playground WMIBF at the time and hung out. I didn't go to the hospital until the next day. A few years ago, I was sick. Not fun. But it was only a bug. I'd be okay in a couple days maximum. I started to get an unusual pain in my abdomen as the day wore on. But to me, it was just a side effect of all the throwing up I'd been doing. I spent the night in the spare room for 2 reasons. 1. Because I was so freaking hot, and 2. In case I needed to get up. I didn't disturb my partner who would be getting up early for work. I managed to get an okay night of sleep, with the vomiting having stopped. But I still felt shit. When my partner came to see me before he went to work, he asked how I was. I still felt terrible, but it was a tummy bug. I wasn't going to be instantly better, but that sharp pain was still there. On hearing that I still was in pain, he insisted on taking me to hospital. I didn't think it was at all necessary, but I was too exhausted to argue. When we got to the hospital, I made damn sure the person at the front desk knew I thought this was a waste of time. After a lot of prodding and questions about if I was pregnant, it turned out it was my appendix in the process of rupturing. I had a painful lump near my belly button. Doctor said it was a hernia and wouldn't require treatment unless the pain got much worse, which it did. And I had a bright red hot to the touch rash across the area. Go see a surgeon who says yep, it's inflamed. I need to repair it. 30-minute outpatient procedure. Easy. Nope. A surgical suture from my C-section/hysterectomy 14 years earlier never dissolved and had perforated my colon. Another few days I'd have been dead. Got blackout drunk while camping and fell hands first onto the grate that had been over the fire for hours. My wife and friends were all freaking out thinking I definitely had 3rd-degree burns. I came out of my blackout in the bathroom with all of them trying to wash my hands in cold water. When all the soot came off, I was somehow completely unharmed. Since then I've been known as the unburned. My first job was as a butcher and I came into work one day with a raging hangover. I sharpened the knives, they were crap ones, that went blunt all the time, and immediately proceeded to cut my finger open. I thought nothing of it, went about my shift, and when I got home to put a proper dressing on it, I found out it was as deep as the bone and I wouldn't get feeling back in the end of it for literally years. Rolled my car, got out of the car bewildered and in shock, noticing a kink in my neck. As someone who constantly cracks my knuckle/back/neck, my instinct was just I'm not hurt. Thank God. Just need to crack my neck and it'll be fine. Before I finished processing that train of thought, I was held down in C-spine by the person behind me who had watched my crash. Luckily he was an off-duty firefighter. I had broken 3 vertebrae in my neck. I just couldn't tell it yet from the adrenaline and shock. Required full surgery to fuse together with bone from my hip and plates/screws. Had there not been someone behind me, and had I proceeded with my TIS, but a scratch instincts, I'd be paralyzed or dead. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.